July by James Stevenson. These days, time races by for me, but 50 years ago, when I was young, each month was like a glacier, slowly melting. January, February, March, April, May, June, until July! In July, my brother and I went to stay at our grandparents' house near the beach. I see the ocean. I see it too. I saw it first. I see Grandma's house. Sit down, boys. Our parents drove us there and dropped us off. Grandma and Grandpa lived in a white house with shady porches. Even in the summer, Grandpa wore a cap, a tie, a jacket, a flower in his buttonhole, cufflinks, a pocket watch on a chain, long socks, and Grandma wore a hat, a dress, and city shoes, and so did their friends. In the afternoon, they all played croquet. Grandpa thought there was a right way to do everything. That is not the most efficient way to cut a piece of pie. Sorry. Never mind, dearie. Grandma didn't care. Grandma loved to laugh. She was kind, too. At night, she locked all the doors except one, in case anyone needs to get in, she said. Grandma had lots of friends. One was Mrs. Bartlett, who delivered the mail in an old car. She drove on both sides of the road and sometimes down the middle. When she wasn't delivering mail, Mrs. Bartlett was the village telephone operator. She would stop for a cup of coffee and tell my grandmother all the things she had overheard on the phone. The first thing I did after we arrived was jump on my bike and race over to the house where my best friend from last summer lived. Sometimes a different family had rented the house. Is George here? Who? Then I went to see who was around. There were always plenty of kids to play with, and we all had to be home and in bed by a certain time. Donald was allowed to stay out until 9:15. Sally was 9:30. George, too. Marjorie could stay out till 10, she said. I had to be in bed by 9, but I didn't sleep. I just thought about how much fun Donald and Sally and George and Marjorie must be having. There was lots to do. We played kick the can and capture the flag. We wrote messages on birch bark. We skipped stones and paddled canoes. We built sandcastles with tunnels and bridges and raced marbles down their roads. And there was lots not to do. Don't forget to tie your sneakers. Don't ride your bike when it's dark. Don't step on a rusty nail. Don't leave your tennis racket out on the lawn. The two things I wanted most to do were climb to the top of the Moffat's windmill and get a ride in Mr. Harding's speedboat. There were people we steered clear of. Mrs. Bennet and her sister, Miss Turner, who gave lectures on how to behave. Judge Perkins, always cross. Mr. Wagner, who would turn purple and yell. Uncle Freddie and Aunt Mary lived nearby. Uncle Freddie hung a string from the exact center of his garage door, so he had something to aim at when he drove in. It worked fine. One day, however, a kid moved Uncle Freddie's string, and when Uncle Freddie drove in, crunch! Aunt Mary usually read books on her porch. We had the idea she didn't want to be disturbed. I wanted to be a great tennis player, so I practiced hitting the ball against the backboard. I just hit harder and harder. Just when I was getting really good, I hit the ball over the backboard. Then I had to hunt for it in the weeds and vines. I thought maybe I would try to be a baseball star instead. There was a narrow boardwalk that led to the beach. We liked to see how fast we could go, without flying off into the poison ivy. I liked to watch the ocean. Sometimes a school of porpoises went rolling past. On foggy days, people could fish from the shore. You could hear the reels whirring. If somebody caught a fish, he'd put it on the ground. You couldn't tell if it was really dead. During a big storm, we would go to the beach and watch the waves. Some nights, we had picnics on the beach and we toasted marshmallows on sticks. Some kids liked their marshmallows lightly toasted. It took them 5 minutes to get them just right. I liked mine burnt black. If their marshmallow slid off the stick and fell into the fire, they moaned and groaned. If mine fell off, it tasted even better. Afterward, everybody would tell ghost stories. We would laugh, but we all rode home in a bunch. At the beach, there were narrow wooden rooms called bathhouses. People went into their bathhouse and changed into their bathing suits. Men wore tops when they swam. Women wore rubber bathing caps to keep their hair dry. They tucked their hair under before they went in. Older people wore rubber shoes for swimming. We liked to crawl under the bathhouses. If anyone saw us, they yelled, "Get out of there!" I thought swimming underwater was more interesting than swimming on top. It was fun to sneak up on Jack, the lifeguard, and throw a pail of water on him. I never did get to the top of Moffat's windmill. Either I got caught near the bottom, or I got halfway up, got scared, and came down. But one day Mr. Harding brought his speedboat into the dock at the beach. We all ran out to look. Even when it wasn't moving, the speedboat made a deep rumbling sound as if it couldn't wait to get going. Mr. Harding looked at us standing there. Nobody spoke. Then Mr. Harding said, "Anybody want a ride?" We said, "Yes!" And it was 10 times better than I thought it would be. The end.